So, how often should you update the content on your website? This is part two. Part one was about how often to check the functionality of your website. Part two, we're going to talk about updating your content and how often you should update your content depending on the kind of business you have. So, I'm Appy at iCode Happy, and I'm excited to dive in. Part two is about updating your website and making sure that the content is current and relevant, accurate, and all of those things so that your customer or client or visitor lead has a great experience on your website. And also so that your website is being a good employee for you and working well, doing the tasks that you have set up for it to do for you and for your business. So, what are those things and how often do you update your content? And come back to my favorite answer, it depends. What does it depend on? Well, some of the similar things that we just talked about for how often you check on making sure that things are still functional and working. But a more basic business website, we've all seen them, the classic 5-page website, home page, about page, services page, contact page, and maybe a portfolio or a gallery or an FAQ. Basic business website, not a lot of interactivity. Maybe things aren't changing that fast. Maybe you still have the same services and they're delivered in the same way and the descriptions are still the same as 3 years ago. And that's okay. You can leave it alone. I would check in at least once a quarter, once a year. You know your business. You know if you are more comfortable updating your about page once a year. Maybe you got new brand photos. You can add some of these things. Maybe you have updated your brand vibe or your brand language or anything about your business. If you need a new headline or tagline or logo, anything to do with how things are changing in your business, that should all be reflected on your website. And you can update that when it changes and with general frequency of yearly, quarterly, whatever works for you in that cadence is probably plenty for a website like that. What about something that is a little more content intensive, something like a blog, or maybe you're a podcaster and you add your podcasts to your website? If that's something where you are adding content to your website on a regular basis, obviously you're going to make those changes. You don't have a blog unless you post them. So that is in itself updating the content. But, or rather, and in addition to the content that you're adding to your website, are there other things that go along with that that may need updated, maybe fairly frequently? Maybe you have an offer or something on your homepage or a different informational page or a frequently asked questions page, and that makes a perfect link to a blog post. Making sure that you get that linked and that the links continue to work as you add content, as you change things, as you are adding your blog posts or your podcast episodes or whatever the case may be to your website, making sure that as your brand changes, as seasonal content happens, maybe there's a featured blog post that you have on your homepage. Maybe that's automatic and it's automatically replaced by the next one. Maybe it's not. Maybe you added a manual link to a featured blog post that you wanted on the homepage, and then a month or two down the road, you want to switch that up and feature some different content, different things going on in all kinds of different aspects of our lives, and things change. And again, that change needs to be reflected on your website. So if you're in that situation where you are adding content and changing things up on your website regularly, I would recommend at least once a month, maybe a little more often, depending on your cadence and your business. I would recommend, yeah, about once a month that you really take a look at your website. Maybe it's a freebie that needs updated. Maybe it's links cross site and to different pages, different posts. Maybe you have a series and you feature that somewhere and you need to make sure that the links work in sequence and correctly. Maybe there's a new blog post and that now needs to link to a product, or a product or service changes and that's linked in some old blog posts and those need updated. Those kinds of tasks, I know I've been there. They are time consuming to check through all those things. And I make spreadsheets for those things and make lists so that I know what is where and which link is where and where I need to update things. And I know it's a pain, but it will help your website work better for you. And it will also give your visitor and your client, your audience, a better experience. And that's worth spending some time on. Okay, so we have basic business website. We have websites where you're adding a little bit of content a little more frequently. So we've gone from yearly, quarterly to monthly. The last type of website I want to talk about is something where things are changing all the time. That's an online store where you have orders all the time, hopefully. I hope that's true for your store, or you can have them at any time. You have a learning platform, you have a community, you have any kind of website where there's a lot of interaction, probably a lot of client or customer interaction on the website, often, every day, maybe minute to minute, just depends. Second to second, yeah, some are that big. And in that case, where you have a lot of things changing very often on your website, it takes being really on top of it to make sure that those things continue to work and that they continue to stay updated and relevant. So it could be as simple as updating your inventory. It could be new products. It could be taking down old products or services. It could be changing the delivery. Maybe you're using a different shipping service, or you're packaging things differently, or the instructions are different. Maybe it used to be that you had to get a download in an email and click a link, and maybe now you have a different process. Whatever that is, you want to be letting people know that that is different. That's a good thing to update and to make sure that you are taking care of letting people know that that is changed. Some things my clients ask for with updates: sales. Number one, I'm having a seasonal sale. Let's put it on the homepage. Great. Okay, let's remember to take it down too when the sale's over. Featuring products, the most popular product this month, the most popular product next month or next season, new collections, new policies, different refund policy this time, new dates for returns or order by for Christmas, different things that are seasonal, and that's critical to keep up with that. Current store hours, location, updated phone number for a retail store, anything that is changing that affects how your clients can do business with you and affects their experience on your website because things are different in your business. That's awesome to get that reflected on your website as quickly as you can. And how often to do that depends on how busy you are. But if you have an online store and you get an order that is an urgent thing. You accept the order, you get it packaged, you get it shipped out as soon as you can, and then you hop back in the system and you click shipped so that they start getting emails that, okay, this order is on its way. That's part of your process for your business. Well, the rest of your website, those updates, it's a similar way of determining your system, your process, and making sure that those things are getting taken care of at the level of frequency that works for you and for your business. It wouldn't work, know from experience here, it wouldn't work to get an order and miss it. And a month later say, oh, here's this order. Let me get it shipped and then send it to them. Unless maybe it's a custom order. Maybe you've said up front, it's going to take me a month to get this ready to send to you. If that's what they expect, awesome. And you have that process in place. They know, you know, and it works. If that's not what they're expecting and it takes a month to get there, yeah, that's maybe not going to be a super happy customer, especially in this day and age where we want things right now. So, yeah, if you have a website that is changing frequently, then I do suggest making sure that you're updating things a little more frequently because they're changing more frequently. It's just the pace of your business. So that's part 2. We did part 1, which was the functionality of your website. And now we've done part 2, which are the content updates of your website. And so now hopefully you have an idea of how often, depending on your business and what works for you, to make sure that you take a look at those things on your website so that it keeps working well for you. If this has been helpful and you would like to keep going, I have a freebie for you. It is a quick reference guide to how often to update your website. And you can print it off and check things off for your own website so that it can help you and work well for you. And that's my goal.